Hey, how's it going, everyone? Here we are again in another episode of the Lineage Legacy podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, my good friend Eduardo Zamora. Eduardo, let me give you guys a little bit of history, a little bit of backdrop of how Eduardo and I know each other. We met in freshman year of high school at San Pascual High School in Escondido. Funny story how we met, because I have an older sister, if you guys don't know, but my older sister is 1 year older than me, so she was always 1 year ahead of me, and Eduardo and I look alike to some people, they would say. So people would go up to my sister and be like, "Hey, I just met your brother," or like, "Hey, is that your brother?" And they were talking about Eduardo. They were talking about Eduardo, Lalo, they call him, and Organza. And my sister would be like, "No, that's not my brother. That's my brother." And she'd point at me, or she'd say like, "That's the guy." And eventually, him and I had a class together. And I think probably I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, are you this guy or whatever?" And then we ended up making sense of like he's the guy that they would confuse us for, and we became friends, man, and we've been friends ever since. So that's the backstory of how I know Lalo here. So yeah, man, I have Lalo. I have the privilege and the honor of having him inside the studio today, recording this podcast with me. And he's a very good friend, man.
Yeah,
have him here.
Dude, what's up, bro? Yeah, that was a pretty good intro. Yeah, that's the funny story of actually how we ended up meeting. Not just that, obviously, after we found out that, they would confuse us. You know what, kind of taking a step back, it's funny because I just showed a photo to my girlfriend of us when we were younger. And she was like, "You guys look identical."
When we were in high school, or like
the photo that you sent me like a week ago.
Oh, yeah.
I showed her that photo. And she was like, "Yo, you guys look related." And I was like, "Yeah, we used to get that all the time." But
that's how we met.
That's how we met. We had a lot of mutual friends too. Obviously, I know some of your family, and yeah, we just go way back. But thanks for having me on here, bro. I'm excited to share what I have with my family.
Yeah, for sure. So no, I'm excited you came on, man. You're a real friend, and I honor that, man. You and I have always like kept in contact. I mean, it's not, it's already been like 12 years since we graduated high school, or so, like 11 years, but time goes by fast, and we've been staying friends since then, and obviously our friendship is going to last till after that. But yeah, man. So welcome on to the Lineage Legacy podcast. You know what this is. You know what this podcast is about. We want you to share your family history. We had a meeting a couple weeks back on just kind of a preview of what this podcast is, and what we like for you to share, and whatever you feel comfortable sharing. So I know you went back to your family, or talked to them and got a little bit more history from them. And honestly, I'm excited about this podcast because I know his family, he knows my family. We've known each other for quite some years. But you told me something not long ago about your grandma going to school with a certain someone.
Oh yeah.
That and bro, that's super cool. It's interesting, and I can't wait for them to hear what that is, because that's a pretty big deal. Whether they were close or not, or whatever the case is, that's a big deal, man. So
and I actually I won't spoil it yet, but I actually just asked her about that earlier today just to reconfirm, and yeah, she said that she lives by it, and it's 100% legit. So I was trying to get some photos so that we can have some kind of proof, because I believe she does have at least a photo when she was in I think she said first grade. Mm-hmm. So but so if I can find a photo, I'll give that to you, just to, get some more credibility, because some people won't believe it. I know that for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. But again, let's dive in. Let's start, man. What do you know about your family? Like the furthest knowledge you know about your family. You have a beautiful family, big family. So let's start there. Where can you take us to?
So, like I said, I did definitely wanted to get as much information as I possibly could. And I was able to get quite a bit, but it mostly just entails with my grandma. Um, from what I know
So
from
your
my
mom's side of the family.
correct, so this is mom's side. Obviously, for me, I'm closer to my mom's side of my family, so this is who this information um, basically corresponds to. But my my great grandmother, I did get a little bit of info about her. So she's from Ciudad Mexico, born and raised. So we're Chilangos, as you can say, right?
Yep.
Where she's from the DF, and she lived there most of her life. Made my great grandfather in the DF as well. Had a beautiful family. They had actually 11 kids, which my
Just
just right,
just 11.
just 11. It was six males and five females, and that's kind of our roots. That's kind of where everything originated from. Living in Mexico DF, and then when my grandmother was born,
So let me stop you there.
yeah,
Is your grandmother part of those
11.
one of those
Yeah,
11?
yeah.
Okay.
So my grandmother's part of one of those 11.
And we'd love for you to use names too, so your ancestors, your relatives can know who
Right.
these people are. So do you know your great grandmother and great grandfather's names?
Yeah, so it's Juan and Doña Pola. That's what we call her. Um, that's my great grandmother's name. May she rest in peace. But yeah, as far as I know, that's what they are. As far as all the 11, you kind of got me there. That's something I even asked my grandma, and she was a little bit. Although they're her brothers,
Yeah, she's
she
like,
knows them by nickname. That's what's kind of funny, right? But yeah, so it was Doña Pola and Juan. That's basically who we originated from, and now we're here today.
and your grandmother's name is
My grandmother's name is Maria Beltran.
Maria Beltran.
Maria Estela Beltran,
Hmm.
which all our we come from the Beltran roots. Everyone in my family is Beltran. Ironically, except for me, my last name's Zamora.
Yeah.
That comes through obviously my dad. Um, but yeah, we're the familia Beltran.
And so was your grandmother, was she kind of the one of the older ones or one of the younger ones from the 11? Or was she in that
So she was
family?
second youngest out of the 11, and she kind of was always the one that was. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say getting bullied, but she was always the one that her older brothers and older sisters would kind of give a hard time to.
She was a little sister.
She was a little sister for sure, but obviously, I mean, growing up in a Mexican household, I mean, it's not like, it's not in a hard way,
All
right?
right. Yeah.
So
It's all love.
it's all love, exactly. Just getting roughing you up a little bit around the edges so you don't take any of the BS.
Yeah. You
You
build
know
some
what I mean?
you build some character.
100%. So, she's very grateful for having her brothers, which some have passed away, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I can kind of dive into a little bit more. But did you have any questions?
Um no, so your grandmother is the second youngest one, second to youngest one. Was she born in La Ciudad de Mexico too, or was she born somewhere else?
No, yeah. So she was actually born in El DF. From what she mentioned to me, she was only there until she was 2 years old, and then that's when the big family decided to move to Juarez,
Mm.
which is now where our roots basically are.
Mhm.
So after being there till she was 2 years old, she moved to Juarez, and that's where the kids basically grew up. Yeah,
That's where the whole family grew up. The brothers, sisters, your tias, your tios. That's where they grew up.
exactly.
Hmm.
And from what I was actually able to grab, like as far as information, it was my great grandmother and believe one of her sisters,
Hmm.
and obviously my great grandfather and all the kids that ended up going to Juarez.
Hmm.
So we expanded quite a bit. Obviously, she had her part of her family too, so it wasn't like we were just kind of, she wasn't going alone, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, she
So
was excited that someone was willing to kind of take off with her as well, you know?
yeah, yeah. So at 2 years old, moved to Ciudad Juárez from La Ciudad de Mexico.
Hmm.
How much did she share with you about her childhood? I mean, we got something special cooking up about her childhood, something
Yeah.
really cool. But how much did she tell you about it? Like,
Yeah.
what do you know from like 2 years old to when she got to Ciudad Juárez? What
Yeah.
do you know about that?
So I actually do have quite a bit written down. So from 2 years old to 11, she lived in Juarez.
Mm-hmm.
Went to school, I believe you call it primaria,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is elementary for us.
Right.
Um, and that's kind of where I'm gonna bring it in. She went to school actually with a really famous Mexican artist. His name's Juan Gabriel. They went to the same school in Juarez, Ciudad Juarez.
Same grade.
Same grade.
Same
Uh,
class, maybe.
yeah, no, same. Yeah, because they actually have a photo together.
And there were small classes back in the day, so
Right.
these schools are not like your traditional elementary school or K through 12 here in the States. These are,
Tiny
small
schools
schools that maybe you have
in a little pueblo,
20 kids in one
Right.
class, and the
Right.
class is, kindergarten through 5th grade.
And,
So,
yep. So it kind of was like when she originally told me that, I was like, all right, this is probably not true, right?
yeah.
But yeah, she swears by it, and like I said, I really hope I can get you guys that photo so then we can just add some validity behind it, right?
And so for those that don't know who Juan Gabriel is, I'll just tell you guys a little bit. Juan Gabriel is a Mexican. Um,
He's
how would I say it?
yeah,
It's
he's
very traditional. He's I want to say mariachi, but he
yeah,
is a regional. I think I would
yeah,
say Mexican regional singer, and I think the equivalent of Michael Jackson would to be
yeah,
in the U.S.
hundred
Like
percent,
this guy is huge. This
yeah.
guy was huge, and his like legacy still lives on. So
100%. That's why it's such a when she mentioned that to me, right? I'm pretty sure you guys can correlate like somebody saying like, "Oh, my grandmother went to school with Michael Jackson." It's kind of like, "Yeah, sure, grandma," right?
right.
So it was kind of funny to me hearing it the first time, but then after that, she stood on that hill, and like I said, I'll try to get you guys that photo, and we'll plug it into this podcast. That way you guys can see it. But yeah, so she was till 11 years old, went to school, did everything in Juarez, lived with brothers and sisters in a small colonia in Juarez. This is when one thing I do want to let you guys know, for those who don't, Juarez is now not probably the safest place in Mexico to even go visit or uh, to do any kind of touristy attractions. It's unfortunately kind of ran by a lot of big cartels. So back then, um, it was a lot calmer. There was not that much stuff going on. It was a little bit more family oriented, I would assume,
Hmm.
because just based off of some of the stories that she would tell me of, going to the tienda on the corner by herself late at night with her brothers and sisters. It's, obviously it kind of gives that, right? That it was a little bit more of a
Safe.
safer community to be around, which is kind of unfortunate. Obviously, we definitely hope to have that back in the near future, but Juarez isn't the safest place, right? And that's definitely something I want to bring up early on because that kind of drives the reason for us to even be here in the United States now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those places that it's actually in the desert too. It's the northern
Yeah,
part of Mexico. If you guys geographically don't know where it's at, and it's bordering Texas. Is
yeah.
it bordering El Paso?
It's bordering El Paso.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
the,
bordering El Paso. And there's a lot of there was at least in the early 2010s a lot of activity regarding crime and stuff. But yeah, and this beautiful place
yeah,
overall.
yeah. I mean, it is 100%. One of the things I do want to bring up as we move forward. So she lived in Juarez, obviously very young, 11 years old, until she was 11, and then my great grandmother, Doña Pola, Juan, my great grandfather, started kind of having complications within their marriage. So my grandmother actually stepped in as a provider, and at 11 years old, started looking for work in El Paso.
Mm.
So she actually would cross the border back when it was super easy to do it, right? It
You
was
just step over a
yeah,
line.
you would just literally step over a line. No one would give you a hard time. She would cross over, work. She would help clean houses with one of my aunts. And she was living in El Paso for a little while to kind of get away from whatever problems were happening back at home, right? So she was doing that. She did that for about 2 years. And she did tell me that she would send back, this is kind of crazy, every month she would send back $20. And that would be more than enough to help my grandma, my great grandmother, out with whatever she needed. So groceries, um, anything you could possibly think of, right? I don't know what you would
Yeah.
need back in the day, right? It's not like you needed
$20.
yeah, it's not like you needed an iPhone back in the day, huh?
Right.
But yeah,
Pay the mortgage off.
for sure, $20. I mean, this was I did try to get some time frame. So this is like in the 60s,
Mhm.
like mid to late 60s. This is when this was happening. So she would tell me that she was just out there for quite some time, just kind of going at it on her own. She did that for about 2 years. Yes.
So your grandma was born in the mid to late 50s?
She was born in 1950.
1950.
Yeah, 1950. So yeah, this happened. Yeah, early 60s actually.
Mm-hmm.
So different times for sure. Um, it's pretty crazy, right? Thinking about that.
Yeah.
And
Early 11 years old, working to support her family, sending $20 back to
Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of, as I was talking to her, obviously this is probably a spot that kind of did get her a little upset, because she did mention that when she came back to Juarez, she said, "Hey, you know what? I'm finally gonna go back, go with my family, go with my brothers." My great grandmother kind of didn't really like that, because obviously she was kind of like a big support from the U.S. side, right? I don't know how many families currently deal with that, but that is a big thing
Mm-hmm.
in the Mexican culture, where if you do have somebody in the U.S. that goes out to work, right?
And they're bringing in the money.
And they're bringing in the money and they're helping out the family. It's kind of like, hey, you're our breadwinner. Why are you gonna come back already and kind of cut that off for us? Sounds kind of selfish, but I mean that's just kind of how it was. So when she finally said, "Hey, you know what? I think I've done my part," my great grandmother didn't really take that the right way. Um, so she didn't kick her out. My grandmother took it kind of like, "Hey, you know what? I don't even want to deal with this and be here anymore." So she moved back to El Paso by herself for, I believe she said, about 2-3 weeks, and then decided to make her way over to California by herself.
Dang.
Yeah.
And do you know what age she was?
There she was around 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. She said, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with like the backlash of like my brothers and my sisters and my mom, right?" So she said, "You know what? I'm out of here." And she actually moved from El Paso to Gilroy, here in California, and went straight to work at the fields.
Dang.
Yeah.
And Gilroy is north, right?
Yeah, Gilroy's a little bit closer towards like the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So like what is that? Santa Cruz,
Or like Salinas area.
Salinas,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with those areas. Although,
But it's a farming, working field
yeah, they do.
area.
I think she said that what she was picking was
Lettuce.
let's see, cucumbers. So
Cucumber.
pepinos.
Yeah.
And tomatoes. So and then she met some friends out there. But that's basically what ended up happening.
Wow. At 13 years old, moved from Ciudad Juárez to Texas to California on
Yeah,
her own.
yeah. Well, and it gets a little bit more crazier than that. You see, like, here's the thing, right? I could have left this part out, but what ended up happening right after that is she made a little bit of money, okay? Came back to El Paso, was there for a little bit longer, and that's where she met my grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Um, Robert, that was my grandfather's name. Um, Met Robert, and they started a life together until she was about 16, 17. And then they had their first kid, which is my uncle Robert,
Mm-hmm.
rest in peace. Um, and from there had six children, which obviously one of them was my mother.
Mm-hmm.
But had four boys, two girls.
And can you name just for
Oh yeah, hundred
reference?
percent, 100%. So it's my Theo Robert, Robert Beltran, Jesus Beltran, Sara Beltran, Joe Beltran, and Rosemary Beltran, which is my mother.
Mm-hmm. And your mother being the youngest.
My mom being the youngest. Um, they they lived together, and like I said, in El Paso for a little while. Got themselves established there until one day things just kind of went downhill.
And do you know much about your grandfather?
Ye-
What did he do for a living?
yeah, so
Where he came from?
I got a little bit of info. I what I was able to source is that he was a part of um, the like legal system in El Paso. So it was part of my grandmother calls it politica, right? Which we would call it politics here,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know how far deep into that. I would assume maybe just like within like a city aspect. Um, but yeah, that's what he did for work. Always had to be looking sharp, suit and tie kind of a workplace where he was always at. So, um, some obviously something very respectable.
Educated.
100%, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Went to college. He's a vet as well,
Mm.
Army vet, which kind of ingrained into one of my uncles because he's a vet himself as well. But yeah, I mean, he did his part. Definitely served the country, and we're here. We're still obviously benefiting from him as a family member for what he did for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's nice. But they unfortunately um didn't work out, and then did her grandmother move back to
Yeah,
California?
yeah. So what ended up happening was that's what I was saying. It got a little tricky there because it was kind of like back and forth, back and forth. When my uh, uncle, oldest at the time, Uncle Robert, turned 2 years old, she decided to move back to Gilroy because she had friends out here, right? That she made when she was working in the fields by herself. Um, so she came back and she actually brought all the kids with her.
Mm.
So similar to kind of what her mom did, but she was kind of alone.
Mm-hmm.
So she came back to California and just rented out a house with um, uh, her friend that she had met out here in California at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And all four or five kids.
Yeah, five kids.
Five kids.
All
All
five
five
kids.
kids.
So she can, mind you, I would assume it was probably a little bit cheaper
Yeah.
to raise your kids back in the day, right?
Yeah, but I
Uh,
mean, dang,
which is
the
still a big responsibility.
yeah.
It's like if you're, especially if you're by yourself, you're kind of having to deal it out, battle it out, especially after you're off of work, straight to being a mother. It's hard for sure. So hats off to her. She made it happen. Um, until one day, she mentioned that she kind of was getting over Gilroy. She didn't really want to move back to El Paso just because things weren't working out with my grandfather at that time. So, unfortunately, obviously, you can kind of see how that uh, has a real similar twist or storyline to like my great grandmother, right? It was like similar, kind of like, hey, let's leave. So, with her friend, they decided to try to find a place in Long Beach. So they moved from Kilroy to Long Beach. My grandmother had a car at that time. She just packed everything up and said, "Hey, let's go. Let's try to find a place out there." And she mentioned that for like 2 days straight, when she was trying to look for places, they were just like sleep on the street because nobody would rent out a room or an apartment to them because it was a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was my grandmother, 5 kids, and then plus her friends and like 2 kids. I don't know exactly how many they had, but let's just say a total of 10 or like 9
Yeah.
trying to get an apartment. It just wasn't happening. So she finally, yeah, after those 2 days were up, she was like, "Hey, you know what? Like, I don't think we're gonna find anything here." But somehow, one of her brothers, one of my grandmother's brothers, was here in Escondido,
Mm.
and he lived here for a little while. And she called him, and he said, "Hey, well, Escondido is not far from Long Beach. Make the drive." And sure enough, yeah, she drove down here, and they found a room, and that's kind of how we landed here.
Dang, dang. So, yeah, she was
Yeah,
moving around, like
yeah,
trying to find a better place for everyone
right,
and better opportunities.
right.
And do you know what her brother, your great uncle, was doing at that time? What that landed him here to Escondido? Was he in the military? Was
No,
he?
he wasn't. I actually tried asking her and try to get a little bit more info about that because I was actually interested too. I was
Yeah,
like,
like
I was
how
like, what do
did?
you do? Yeah, what do you
Right.
do out there? Out of all places, Escondido, right? I was like, and she was like, oh no, I have no idea. Like he was just there, and I called him, and
She
he,
probably just knew that he was in California,
right,
and he's like, "Oh, I live in a little city called Escondido."
right.
Yeah.
It just kind of occurred somehow, and I mean, well, yeah, it just stars align. Well, I mean, when you really think about it, right? It's like it's significant to us because it's like you would have never expected that, but it could have been like any other city, right? Like he could have landed in, I don't know,
Riverside.
Riverside, Temecula, San Bernardino, somewhere, and it's like, oh, okay, but yeah, she landed here, um, and instantly got to work.
Mm.
Yeah, but that what she did here when she obviously wanted to change her work style, so it was still similar. She worked at a nursery. um so for those who don't know, I mean, not actually like taking care of people, right? Some people can first
Right.
yeah, can she worked like taking care of like plants and doing stuff like that.
It's like a big plant shop
Yeah, that's what
and farm.
exactly. So she did that for about 3 years, and then as time went by, she jumped into different roles as she was raising my uncles and my mom.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Dang. But I know your family still had roots and ties to El Paso.
100%.
So do you know what age and how old was your mom when they landed here in Escondido? And did some of them go back to El Paso?
Yes, so that's a great question. Yeah, so my grandma, I'm sorry, my mom around that time, she was around like 6 or 8 years old. Let me just verify that.
Hmm.
Yeah, so she was around 6 or 8 years old, and she stayed here. The only one that actually ended up moving back to El Paso with my grandfather was my tío Chuy, my tío Jesus.
Hmm.
So he's the one that decided, second oldest, decided just to go back and try it out over there. Um, and that's basically from there. Nothing else really changed. Uh, Everything kind of stayed the same. Uh, Grandma was out here working, hustling. We met a lot of great friends out here. Um, Also, one thing that I did meant to, I mean, I accidentally forgot to throw in, but we met, sorry, in the barrio back in the day in Juarez. My grandmother was really good friends with some guy named Choche. He's a really good family mechanic of ours now, and we've known him for years. Besides the whole family mechanic
From El
thing,
Paso.
from El Paso, um, and he was actually here in Escondido as well.
Mm.
And I don't know exactly how that happened, but they ended up just obviously um, getting together, and they were just happy that
They knew someone.
exactly, because that's the crazy thing, right? I think we got to take a step back and really take that in. um there is no MySpace, there's no Facebook, there is no way to check if somebody is near you, you know
Right.
what I mean? So it's like, that's, I mean, obviously Texas is not super far away from California, but still, you're still quite a bit away, you know. So for you to know somebody that you met within your small little, you know, colonia, your pueblo, and they're hundreds of miles away from where you guys originally met, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, that's
You know?
family now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So
family.
it becomes family 100%, you know, because it reminds you of home, right? So yeah, he's awesome. You know, he's amazing to us. Shout out to him, and to this day, he's still really close to our family. Um, but that's kind of how this all happened, and from here, that's how we established roots in Escondido.
Dang, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah,
And this is just to kind of throw in a timeline. This is now around 80s,
1980s.
like 80s, yeah.
Your grandmother must have been 30 something.
She must have been,
Or
yeah, in her,
early,
yeah, early 30s,
early 30s,
early
late 20s
30s,
maybe.
yeah,
And
around
and your mom was
late 20s.
8-ish, and your uncles, how far are they apart?
Um, they're definitely older. They were definitely probably like in the early, like 10, 11, 12, maybe teens, doubt teens. Um, I wish I had an exact, you know, like
They're
time
also not that
frame.
old from each other. They're not that
No,
old apart from each other. Like your mom and her closest brother is maybe 3 years apart, maybe
maybe 5 at
5.
most.
And
Yeah.
the your mom to the oldest one was probably 10 years apart, 8 years apart.
Right. Yeah, around there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that big of a gap. You know, it was pretty consistent. It was pretty back to back.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe the biggest gap's like 3 years.
Mm.
Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of what leads us to being here in Escondido and figuring out things. Now, what ended up happening is obviously my grandmother's single, right? She's working. She's doing a hell of a job at raising her kids. Um, she switched roles, doesn't work at a nursery anymore, and she worked taking care of kind of like a leasing manager, I would say, at apartments.
Mm-hmm.
So collecting
Like property
rents,
management or
property
something. Yeah.
management, so of some sort. Did that for about 9 years, and that's where she met my step grandpa. His name is Ruben. Met him through that process. They fell in love. Had no kids,
Mm-hmm.
but they got together and they made their own life, right? And then that's when obviously time went by. Those 9 years went by. My uncles and mom started getting a little bit older. That's where I come into the equation, right? Mom starts dating, meets my dad, which his name is Leonardo. Passed away, rest in peace. But everyone starts kind of having kids. Uncle starts having kids, and then that's what kind of leads us to the next part of of what I know now, right? Stuff that even I experienced. So yeah.
So let's take it back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Your grandma met Ruben. How, did they? I don't think I've ever met Ruben actually.
No.
So did they last for a while or?
Yeah, so they actually lasted for about 20 something years.
Mm-hmm.
But that relationship was not really here. It was in Fresno because remember I think I told you I lived in Fresno for some time.
Mm-hmm. So take us back to that. I don't think you mentioned it in the podcast.
Right.
In this episode.
Right.
What took you guys back to Fresno? Your grandma was property managing here in Escondido.
Right. So that's actually the next step. So what ended up happening is, um, let's just say mom is around her teens. She started kind of having kids. She had me, right, and then also my uncles had their kids, which are now cousins, and we ended up just we were born, and then me, myself, and then a couple other cousins, we went with our grandmother to Fresno. So when I was about 2 years old, that's when the next big move happened. It was nothing like weird or any like hard feelings or nothing crazy going on. It's just at that time, obviously my mom, she was a single mom at that time, and then my uncles and aunts, they kind of needed help with parenting, and obviously since my mom was kind of the MVP at that, she kind of proved herself.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of helped out with that, and she said, hey, you know what, like, to kind of give you guys a little bit of a head start, and you guys can focus on building some kind of foundation here. um, we'll take the kids and me and Ruben, right, grandmother Ruben, step grandpa, and they're like, hey, we're gonna go to Fresno, we'll get a house, and we'll take them with us while you guys focus on building, uh, your guy, yourself up, mind you.
Your uncles,
Uh,
they were gonna stay here.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. This only happened so it was only for my mother, my tia Sara, and my dear Robert, because Xavier, my cousin, he went with us for a little while, came back. So it wasn't even anything like, hey, we're taking your kids and we're running away with them. It wasn't that way,
No, no, no.
right? It was just more of like kind of like help. That's kind of like, I mean, every Mexican household kind of knows that we help each other out like that,
Right.
And it definitely did help, because look at us now. Now we're back,
Yeah, it was temporary.
It was a temporary thing, because my step grandfather, my grandma, and me and my cousins, which I know as brothers for that particular reason, for growing up with them, right? We were only in Fresno for about 8 years before we came back.
Mm-hmm. So
But
from 2 years old to 11.
yeah, to 11 exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I came back at 11 years old, because that's when I started at Bear Valley. I remember that clear as day, because I was in 6th grade and I started. And
Bear Valley. That was your introduction to Escondido
that
again.
That was my intro.
Oh, that was probably your first introduction as memory goes.
Right, 100%. Well, it really was. Everyone always says. I mean, the cool thing is I was obviously born here in Escondido. I was born at Palomar Hospital. I mean, they shut that thing down and made it to apartments, but
R.I.P. Palomar Hospital. We're actually like 2 blocks away from it. But tell us a little bit about Fresno. What do you remember about Fresno? What took you guys out there? I know she wanted to buy a house out there, but
yeah.
what took you guys out there? I guess maybe family or what?
Yeah, let's see. Did we have family out there? No, we didn't. I think we were the first ones to go back out to Fresno. So originally, from what I heard, we were my grandmother and my grandpa, step grandpa, whatever, we'll just call him grandpa. We're looking at houses back in El Paso, oddly enough, right?
Right.
And it just wasn't working out. Mind you, the houses back there are cheap, at that time. This is pre 2008. I think it's like 2006, maybe around there. So a lot of time passed by, right? Obviously, the reason why I don't really have that much filler is because I didn't really sit down with my mom and went in a deep dive with her, just because our schedules don't really line up. But I'm sure she could have probably added a little bit more context. But cool, sidetracked. But El Paso didn't work out. We didn't really want to go back to Texas, right? Although we had a family still, we still have family in Juarez. It just didn't really make sense for us. So then they started looking at places close to Gilroy. Now, mind you, Fresno's not super close to Gilroy. I think it's probably still like 3 to 4 hours away. But I don't know, man. My grandma just kind of likes something about the fields, because I mean, I'll tell you that Fresno's full of fields too. It's all the cherries out there, grapes. My bad.
Yeah,
cherries, grapes, and almonds.
Agriculture. Lots of agriculture.
So they decided just to get a house in Fresno, and that's where I was basically raised. And I remember most of it, being super young, just kind of growing up, like I said, around cousins. It was kind of fun, We'd go to school, everyone kind of did their thing, we'd come back, and we'd come to Escondido, obviously, quite frequently to visit our parents, visit my mom, visit my uncles, and it was just always that commute. But it's not too bad. Escondido to Fresno is about 5-6 hours. It's not super super far. I mean, it felt forever when you were a kid, but
days trip.
Yeah, and then just basically growing up there was super fun. I just I just did elementary school. It was K through 6. So that's another thing too that I will get into. It just doesn't, it was a complete trip because coming to Escondido, 6th grade here is middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I went from like not knowing how to like go from class to class, like periods. I had no idea
You were
what the
all in
hell
one
that was.
class.
Yeah, because I was just in one class all day.
Mm-hmm.
So I was tripping out because I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I didn't know I had to go from this class to this class. So it was this whole like,
You're pulling up your schedule, just trying to
yeah,
see where you're going to next.
bro, I was like, at that time, obviously being a kid, 11, 12 years old, I was so nervous. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
So you guys are up there. School. How was school? I know you have a story. I don't know if you want to
Oh,
bring
yeah.
it up,
Yeah,
but
bring it
your
up.
story.
Yeah.
You have a pretty gnarly story.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, little bit about what was going on. Obviously, I was a kid. I was trying to I was like, getting to understand myself, right? Um, I had never, as a kid, I'd always hang out with my cousin Xavier. We'd always do like the most random shit, right? Um, we would go to, this is funny. So we would go to the swap meet all the time, right? I think all of us Mexicans do that, right? We
Yeah.
hit the swap meets, and back then, it's like buying a BB gun at the swap meet. That
Yeah,
was
or
like
the
the thing
little,
to do. Or exactly, like that little red box with
the little,
the little crackers.
yeah.
That, like we would always want to buy stuff like that. So um, we ended up just kind of, which I definitely want to throw this in because now that I'm like bringing it out loud and speaking out loud, it's kind of making a lot more sense um, to what I got going on. We would collect like cans, like so like bottles and cans, and
Hmm.
then like walk like 3 blocks down and sell them like at this like recycle center to try to make money so we can like buy like these BB guns and buy all this stuff. So
Yeah.
we were trying to grind like super early on because I mean obviously at the time, stuff with I wouldn't say money was limited, but obviously we were asking for money to buy a fake gun.
Right. You're a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
Who's gonna give you money?
My grandma would absolutely flip on me. She'd be
Right.
like, "What the hell? You're not gonna buy this thing?" So, we started kind of like saving up, and we would save up enough money to be able to kind of buy the things that we wanted here and there, and then eventually, certain little hobbies started kind of coming into the mix. One of them for me was skateboarding. I got into skateboarding super early on. I was like maybe 5, 6 years old, and I got my first skateboard. Dude, I lost it the first time I got one. I was like, dude, I was so stoked, bro. I was like, hell yeah. I was like, cause my neighbor, fuck, it's crazy going back down memory lane. But my neighbor at the time, his name was Elijah. He lived like 3 houses down from us. He used to skate,
Hmm.
and I used to see him all the time, and I used to hate on him, bro. I used to be like, damn, this dude has a skateboard. I was like, that thing's expensive, like I can't afford that. That's literally, and it's crazy because I still remember this, and I was like 5 or 6. I used to be so mad. I was like, damn, dude, like I want one of those. So it started off with getting a skateboard from the swap meet, and that didn't work because the bearings and the trucks completely suck. Not only that, I was like, dude, this is trash. I left it out in the rain one day, and it didn't work because like the bearings got
they
all
got
messed
they
up.
got all rusted.
I was so pressed, bro. So my grandma finally hooked it up, and my mom they got me my first skateboard, like legit skateboard from like a shop,
Hmm.
and that's what I use.
Do
And
you remember what it was?
no, dude.
No.
I mean, I think it was like actually I take that back. I think it was a Plan B deck.
Dang.
That was Plan B for sure. Pretty sure because that's what I would skate for a very long time. But I'm almost positive it was a Plan B deck. And dude, I cherished that thing, bro. And oh, I never left that thing out. It was like super pristine. And I became good friends with my neighbor Elijah. We would skate, and just like he would show me. He was really good, dude. Like surprisingly, he was a little bit older than me,
Hmm.
maybe like 2, 3 years older than me. He was like almost 10. And dude, he like taught me like just the basics, right?
Right.
Taught me how to ollie. Taught me how to like do like the most random things, but it was cool. Which kind of leads on to what we were gonna bring up.
Yeah.
So um, when some time kind of went by actually. Um, So if we can kind of get a visual, it's like a street, right? Like regular residential street. My skateboarding neighbor lives, if you're facing the house, lives to the right hand side. And then to the left hand side was a couple houses out for like a really long time. So that's why we moved into that block because most of those houses were up for grabs.
Mm.
And finally, one of these neighbors kind of comes in, and I start getting a lot more comfortable. I start skateboarding to like the liquor store right down the block. Start skating to like, there was like these like 99-cent stores where you buy like BB guns and like just a bunch of random stuff,
Yeah.
candy. So I would skateboard, come back, and this random day, dude, I was a little bit older. I was like 10 or 11. So this is right before we actually ended up moving back to Escondido.
Right before.
Right before, yeah. So some time kind of goes by. And I was skateboarding, and one of my neighbors on my left hand side that had just moved into one of those houses that was unoccupied, he had a pit bull in front of the house, like leashed up.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, you're a kid, you don't think anything about that, So I was just skateboarding, I was on the sidewalk, and next thing you know, the dog's, it's just barking at me. Now, mind you, I was 11, pretty small, maybe like 4 or 5, right? Not that tall. And this dog was pretty damn big, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it was like probably like close to like my waist.
Yeah, it's like 2 feet tall.
Oh, dude, for sure. I was just, absolutely stressed out. And I was like, dude, this dog just keeps on barking at me. And eventually, the dog kind of lunged to like break himself free from his leash. And he did it. He broke the freaking leash, bro. And the dog just absolutely charged at me. And obviously, everyone's first instinct is going to be like, all right, put your hands up and block like whatever's coming at it.
Right.
So I did that. And yeah, homie just took me out, bro. He bit my arm, completely gashed me up, and I pretty much almost blacked out. Obviously, I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
Dog just absolutely took out my arm. And I thought it was a lot more serious than what it really was. I thought I was going to lose some kind of like hand movement, right? But no. I mean,
he bit onto that thing. He grabbed onto it.
Yeah, dude.
Gashed
it.
Yeah.
From what I can remember, I think he kind of like bit one of my pieces off and just like ate it.
Kept it.
I would assume, bro. I mean, because there's a lot of blood on the floor, but there's definitely I don't know. There's like a big gash in my arm. So if you guys ever see me, hit me up and ask me if you can see this freaking gash. It's huge. So I was like wondering, I was like, dude, like whatever happened, obviously like the dog probably ate it or something. It sounds kind of gross, but I mean, that's really what it is. So one of the other neighbors, his next door neighbor, some military guy, he like right away comes out because, dogs barking, kids on the floor, which is me. And, I'm over here freaking screaming. I just got bit. I'm obviously hurt. Guy comes out.
Was it your grandma or your mom screaming? Who was there? Who came out?
Oh, I'm talking about me screaming, bro.
Oh.
I was the one absolutely freaking, up in tears, bro. I was like, dude, like, I just got absolutely hammered by this thing.
Yeah, bro. Can imagine.
And yeah, neighbor comes out. He's a military guy. I remember this thing clear as day. He had this like a towel, and he put it on top of my gash. Basically, this is the part that trips you out. Like, it still trips me out to this day. And I remember, I have a clear visual of this. So he say your arm's extended, right? He put this microfiber on top of my arm, and in a certain section, the microfiber kind of like caved in like a U, and that's where their dog bit me, and instantly the whole rag was full of blood, like within like 3 seconds, and that just caused me to almost black out. I think I did. I don't remember. I lost conscious. Yeah. I just absolutely lost consciousness. Next thing you know, that neighbor goes and tells my grandmother. They come out. My cousins come out. Everyone's like, "Holy crap! What happened?" Ambulance, police car, this whole thing, right? So they get me in the ambulance, and they're like, "All right, cool. Let's take you in." And yeah, we went to the hospital, and they couldn't stitch me up right away. They had some time had to go by because they wanted to make sure it wasn't infected
Mm-hmm.
before they stitched it up. So I had to clean it manually for like a week,
Mm.
open,
Mm.
gashed inside with dry blood. Dude, worst feeling, worst pain ever, honestly.
Yeah.
So I went through that at 11 years old.
Sheesh, the
Which,
trauma.
yeah, 100%, which doesn't leave the best memory of Fresno to me, right? But I mean, honestly, a lot of people ask me too. They're like, "Hey, dude, like, how do you feel about dogs now?" And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I love dogs, you
Yeah.
know. But true,
Oh.
I love my chihuahuas, bro. No, but it's yeah. I mean, obviously, it's something that I went through so early on that completely like, I don't know. I wouldn't say made me who I am today, but it tripped me the hell out for sure, you know?
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to bring up this memory, unlock this memory, is because I remember early on meeting you, you think you showed me or something, you told me this story, and it's a unique story. I'm like, not everyone gets bit by a dog, but I think I asked you because I seen the scar on your hand.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened there? And you told me you got bit by a dog. I was like, I don't think I've ever met anyone that got bit by a dog till then. So it's quite
Yeah.
unique. I mean, to know that someone got bit by a dog. I mean, it comes with the story behind it, obviously. So that's the
Right.
story behind it. And what ended up happening to the dog?
Well, that's another thing too. I get this asked all the time, right? So like the number one thing people tell me is like, "Oh, dude, you probably got like bank off of that," you know? Like, oh, so come to find out, just a little bit of context on the dog and on that particular neighbor. I guess he would like train those dogs to fight. He had a couple pits,
Mm.
and I guess that was like a big thing to do back in like the early 2000s in Fresno. Yeah, you would train these things to fight, and which sucks, right? The guy's are probably a piece of shit for being, doing that, but um, you train these things, so he already knew what to do. This sounds super crazy, but as soon as I got bit, and paramedics took me into the hospital, literally, from what I heard, he killed the dog. So, and now this is really crazy because when I got to the hospital, the police officers were there and they took a full police report down. So if the dog was still alive by the time that police report went down, we were able to sue. But because the dog had already been put down, now mind you, he didn't kill the dog himself. He took him to somewhere like a vet to get the dog put down,
Mm.
and he had paperwork of that.
Oh,
So he knew
he knew the
he knew the
process.
process, he knew what to do, so he wouldn't get charged personally.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, a lot of people ask me like, "Hey, dude, like you probably got bank off of that," which we did try to take it obviously to like through like some like legal action, right? We wanted to try to sue the guy because obviously that thing sucked, bro. Um, but we couldn't do anything.
Right.
It kind of put us in that.
He knew the system.
Yeah, he knew the system, right? Obviously, I would assume so. As if he, you know, trained these dogs to fight. I'm pretty sure it's not the first time that's probably happened where
Yeah.
one of those dogs gets loose and bites someone, And now, so yeah, he for sure knew what to do, which sucks. Poor dogs. But yeah, now we're here.
Dang. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that was your kind of last memories of Fresno. Then you end up moving here at 11. You start middle school at Bear Valley High School with the scar on your hand from a dog bite earlier.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about your early life? Or do you still have more to share about your grandmother, your mother?
Well, I mean, that's basically it, right? So like we after those 8 years we're up in Fresno, we're like, all right, let's go back. I think it just makes more sense for us to go back and be together again as a fam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we did. All right. So we well, let me take a little step back. Don't want to give too much context on this because I didn't ask if I could, but my grandmother and my step grandpa split up.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't work out for them.
Right.
So my grandma was like, "Hey, you know what? Fuck this guy, and I'm leaving." packed all our stuff. We had a Ford Bronco, which is kind of funny because I think I told you about that. Same white Ford Bronco. We're like, all right, we're packing this thing up. We're heading out. Best believe my skateboard was in there.
The plan B.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, dude, we're out of here, bro. I want to take off. So we just left. And we left the house like that. I think actually the house went into foreclosure, bro. Like we just lost the house.
You guys
it was this whole
don't even
thing.
care about the house.
We didn't even care, bro. We just were like, let's get the fuck
didn't even know what is foreclosure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like we're just gone, bro. We were like, all right, let's get the hell out of here. And we came back to Fresno, and we got an apartment.
You mean to Escondido?
Yeah, we came back to Esco. Yeah, and we got an apartment here in Escondido. By like Grand Avenue, behind Palomar College. It was called Tanglewood back in the day. It's not called Tanglewood anymore. Dude, probably the worst apartments at that time to live here. It was across the street from Pepperwood.
Oh, okay.
So if you know that area from back in the day, like, dude, it was absolutely active. Yeah. Gangs like
not the 1990s, 2000s.
Oh, dude, yeah, this was like 2010.
Yeah.
Like 2011, 2010, 2012. Horrible area you can possibly live. So obviously that's probably where we got qualified. That's all we were able to afford at the time. And all my some of my cousins, my mom, my grandma, we all just got in a 2-bedroom apartment and we lived there. And we were back in Escondido with family, and some of my uncles already had some apartments here too, and we just all kind of would hang out from each other's apartments from time to time, and that was kind of it. And then I went to Bear Valley Middle School, which is what I was mentioning to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bear Valley, man. I remember you mentioning you went to Bear Valley because for those listening, we met at San Pasqual High School. Obviously, he went to Bear Valley Middle School. I did not go to that middle school. I went to Del Dios Middle School. So we just, just as many people meet in high school, they meet coming from different paths and different walks of life, and obviously different middle schools. Both Del Dios and Bear Valley, those two middle schools ended up, just the students ended up going to San Pasqual High School, and again, that's where we met.
Yeah, because what do we have here? We have middle schools. We have
Bear Valley,
Rincon,
Hidden Valley, Rincon, Del Dios, Mission,
right?
And
I think it's just a couple more. But we only have 3 high schools, right? So we only have ESCO, we have Orange Glen, and we have SP. But now we have a bunch of charters.
Yeah.
So that we have Del Dio. I mean, we have Del Lago. We have charter.
Well, back then, we had only 3 major
limited
schools.
Yeah.
Maybe there was charter schools, but we're a public education system, so we're not. Our parents didn't know anything about charter schools.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
So we went to San Pasqual, but give us a little. I mean, if you have anything important or sorry, like anything like that you remember distinct about middle school or your time living here as a young adult.
Well, a lot of people, we're going to get into this, but 100% I remember middle school because I was a little crazy ass around those times. For those who don't know, I mean, I have a child, I have a daughter. She's 11 years old. So I had her very early on, had her at 15 years old. So
you're a freshman. I remember that. You and I had just met.
Right. Yeah. So some time went by, obviously, from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I was kind of just living life, being a little crazy ass, still skateboarder, Escondido in a not good hood is not the best combo around that age, right? Especially around your early teens. So I got myself into a lot of dumb shit at that time. Proud to say I never did like drugs or anything like that. I never smoked weed. I think you know that. Like I never got myself into any kind of like crazy like legal substances or anything. But as far as like being what we call a malandrin, that was for sure. That was for sure me. Hesh little skateboarder kid just being absolutely reckless.
Yeah.
You know, can't contain him. He's all over the fucking place skateboarding. You know, my mom would call me. She's like, "Where the hell are you?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm like, 15 minutes away."
Yeah. You're like
I'd be at the movies,
12
posted
years
up
old.
on a Friday.
Yeah.
It's if you know, you know. If you're from Escondido, back in the day, that was a thing to do when you were in high school. I mean, like in middle school and high school, you'd post up in front of the movies.
Yeah, doing nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
cruising grand, you'd walk
yeah.
and then you go to the movies and do nothing. And there were so many different little cliques of just kids from different middle schools and different elementary schools just clicking up, or you go to Isoplex or whatever the case is. But one thing I want to do, I want to share is one of your middle school, or was it high school? But you used to DJ.
Oh yeah,
You used to DJ.
Obviously, we're gonna tap into that too.
When did that start?
So get this right. So
he used to DJ at a very young age, guys.
Yeah, I started super early, bro. It's so funny because nowadays we have like a lot of like upcoming DJs, which I support. I think that shit's so sick because that thing sparked in me so early on, and the way it happened, it was actually kind of fueled by my mom. My mom was like, "Hey, like," because she saw that I was like a skateboarder, and I'm assuming maybe this was kind of like this like Hail Mary play to kind of get me away from like just
going down the wrong path.
Right. Because she didn't know. Right. I'm gonna be honest. Like my mom, I love my mom. She knows that, and she's always like guided me down like the right path. But she's never told me what to do, and that's what's crazy. Like I think like my mom's parenting is like probably like A1, because she's not the mom that like tries to lecture you and tell you what to do. She just provides you with like the decision, but she puts it in front of your face where it's kind of like
you have no other option.
Or it's kind of like, hey, I'd be kind of stupid to go down that other route. She makes you wake up, right?
Yeah.
Which is something that I got super early on. Obviously, maybe not for having a kid, but
she didn't tell you that.
She didn't tell me. Yeah,
she didn't tell you anything about that.
She fucked up on that one. No, I'm just kidding, but no, she definitely like put this on my plate. She was like, "Hey, like, why don't you get into like different hobbies? Like, I know you really like music, and I always like music. I mean, who doesn't, right?"
Mm-hmm.
But early on, obviously, kind of going. I know it might be a little bit of a stretch or a reach, how people like to call it, but grinding, right? Like from like collecting cans and like trying to make a little bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "Hey, like, why don't you get this like as a little side hobby, like, and try to make some little money here and there." And I was like, all right. I was like, yeah, I mean, but that stuff's expensive, like the controller, right? At that time, guys, like we were still using CDs. I used to have to fucking burn some CDs, bro.
Yeah.
Because I had you were able to hook up your DJ set to your computer, but it was like using like virtual DJ. Like it was like these like old school programs. It wasn't even Serato or whatever was popular back then. Which it probably was out there, but I just didn't know too much about it. I was super young, right?
You are 13 years old at this point?
Yeah, I'm 13. I'm not too knowledgeable about some things, right? So I was like, all right, cool. So next thing you know, dude, like she's like, hey, like I'm gonna buy this for you. You want it? And I was like, hell yeah. So she brings this controller home, and it was a Newmark mix deck. I still remember it clear as day. And I was like, oh, dude, sick. So and then I fell in love with that. And that kind of took me a little bit away from skateboarding for a while, because I really wanted to do that. I was like, all right, well, I love music. This is cool. This is something I want to get into. And I just kind of want to experiment with this and put something else to the side. All right. And it worked out, man. The very first gig that I had, this is hilarious.
And I think this was probably perfect timing too, honestly.
Yeah.
Like you getting into the DJ.
Right.
Well, first of all, props to your mom, because I don't even know how your mom thought about the idea of giving you a DJ set, or kind of guiding you towards being a DJ. But like, props to her.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But I was getting at, like, this was probably the perfect time to become a DJ, because, mind you, this is 2011, 2010. Yeah. So this is like prime jerking era. This is prime shuffle era.
Right.
This is a swag era, guys.
Yeah, 100%.
So this is like
DJ Blend was absolutely hot. For those who don't know DJ Blend, look him up on YouTube. It was like this whole like scene, bro, of like, you know, kids shuffling. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know what that is, but for those who don't, just Google it. Shuffling was like the move. That was like the thing to do. And there's this music, right? Because that's what I always used to play. I've always liked house music early on. Like I've always played house.
Sandstorm.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I've always played house music. I've always loved it. My grandma actually, it's funny. My grandma actually loves house music too. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she absolutely loves dude, she loves all those songs, bro. So it's like she would have CDs that we would buy at the swap meet, right? So it correlates back to that. That she would buy CDs, yeah, and the pirated movies, right? That we all would get. And she would play those CDs in the Bronco, and I was like, "Oh, dude, this
Maybe
is
EDM,
sick, bro." Yeah, I would be like, "Dude, this thing's sick," you know,
just
like
playing Tiesto in the Bronco with you guys.
Exactly, yeah, dude. Honestly, so it's like I got put onto that music so early on, and then like as soon as I cross-referenced everything, right, I was like, "Oh, perfect. I'm a DJ of that music that I like," and it was house music, you know, and so it's like it was super early, and yeah, just got to know it. My cousin actually jumped in with me from the start. My cousin Xavier, he still DJs. I kind of took a break from it, but we went on this crazy bender, which I don't know if we're gonna open up that can of worms, but it's like absolutely crazy.
But you were gonna say early on right now, a few minutes ago before I interrupted
Yeah.
you were gonna say you still remember your first gig.
Oh yeah, let me cover this really quick. So my very first gig was down the street from that apartment that I'm telling you guys about in that crazy ass hood. It was for a good friend of ours. Her name was Yesenia. It was her first. No, it was like her 14th or 15th birthday party. I don't know how old she was turning around there, like 14, 15. And she was like, I was on Facebook, and she hit me up. She was like, "Hey, like, I saw like that you posted like a picture of your stuff. Like, do you DJ?" Mind you guys, I don't even go to the same school as this girl. She just hit me up, and we just knew each other because of that whole like shuffling scene. Because nothing to be proud of, but yeah, I was a part of that stuff. So it's like, what the hell? Like, I was like, okay, cool. Like, so we knew each other through mutual friends, whatever. And I was like, yeah. I was like, but I don't have any like speakers, right? Because like I have like the little mixer. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what am I gonna play? Like, how am I gonna play the music?
So how would you listen to your music when you DJ? On the headset?
I had my earphones, my headphones,
yeah.
right? So you could still listen to it.
You just DJ in your room.
Yeah. It was, dude. It was just like all recreational, bro. Like there's no profit. Like I although I thought about making money off of it, I was like, damn, dude, this is like my first gig, bro. So I told my cousin, I was like, hey, bro, like let's do this gig. Like I didn't want to do it alone, right? I was like super nervous. And it's funny because when I told my mom, I was like, hey, mom, like they hired me for a gig. She couldn't believe it, bro. She was like, where? Like, where the hell are you going to go like, DJ? You're a kid.
She's like, I just got you that set last week.
Little did she know I was going to start making that big money, bro. Like, little did she know I was going to start fucking headlining with Tiesto. But, yeah, so I was like, all right, fuck it. I'll do it. Cool. Asked my cousin. He's like, yeah, bro, fuck it. We'll do it. All right. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys some super cringe, like, details about this. So, like I said, no speakers. I don't have any equipment. So I said, you know what? Fuck it. We had a surround sound at the house. And it comes with, like, one of those big subwoofers. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take that.
The classic Mexican ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. The, like, 5-speaker.
I didn't take the speakers. I just took the subwoofer.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I'm going to take the subwoofer. I was like, because I need bass. All right. So I understood what needed to happen. And then I was like, I need a speaker. So we got a speaker. We got a legit speaker. And then I was like, all right, well, I think that kind of covers it. And then my cousin's like, bro, it's going to be at night. Like, what about the lights? I was like, fuck. And I'm like, damn, bro, you're right. Yeah, like, yeah, we don't have any lights. I was like, all right, well, fuck, I'm gonna go to Party City because I didn't, mind you, dude, 13 years old, had no idea Guitar Center existed, did not have money for Guitar Center, has zero money to my name, and I wasn't gonna make my mom pay for it. Mind you, the amount of money that we made from that gig was $25.
It just tips.
Yeah, bro. I was like, that's all I asked for. Yeah. I was like, just give me $25.
That's crazy.
So I was like, all right, cool. So we go to Party City. We buy these like cheap ass lights, strobe lights, and we use that. We're like, all right, cool. It went pretty horrible. I mean, I'm gonna be real. We played
the mixing.
We played stupid music. Like we didn't even mix it correctly. Like we had a lot of work to do, right? We're like, all right, fuck. Like it was super bad. It was a complete flop.
But you knew it was bad while you were there, or did you think? Now looking back at it, you're like, oh, it was bad.
Well, yeah,
I'm sure at that
time I was kind of like, all right, whatever, just do it. It's fun, and people were having fun. Like the kids were having fun, which the kids are
your age,
my age. I was like, all right, we're having fun, but then I was like, all right, maybe not. And then yeah, we called it. It ended at 9 p.m. and then we just wrapped it up, and we're like, all right, like let's get out of here. And that was basically my very first gig. And I did it with my cousin, like I said. My cousin's been with me from the very start. I didn't really do anything on my own. Like he's kind of the one that when I didn't want to do it, he would encourage me to do it, and then vice versa, right?
Yeah.
When he didn't want to do it, I encourage him to do it. So
you guys just piggyback off each other.
Yeah. And then we just learned it a lot better, right? Like after a certain time, obviously, if you keep on practicing, you're going to get somewhat good at something.
Yeah.
So we ended up perfecting it. Well, not perfecting it, but we ended up getting it pretty good.
So that was the early stages of the group that was called.
Yeah. 100%. Oh, we were called the Things back in the day. So the Things, it was thing 1, thing 2. Like it was just some like cringe ass shit. That's what I was telling you guys.
No, but honestly, dude, no,
we were trying to like figure out this whole like dude, think about this, right? So like early on we were like trying to implement like some kind of like branding to us.
Yeah.
Like